Today we will read section 2, Climate and Vegetation. If you remember from section 1, we read about in Europe the land and water. So now we're going to look at the climate and the vegetation. The objectives in this section, you'll find out about the wide range of climates in Europe and Russia. We'll learn about the major climate regions of Europe and Russia. We'll examine the natural vegetation regions of Europe and Russia. 4 key terms: rain shadow, steppes, tundra, permafrost. We'll read this little intro and then we'll jump into the actual book walk. It is February in Barcelona, Spain. 12-year-old Pablo wakes up to the sun streaming through his bedroom window. It's another comfortable day and the temperature is already 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Pablo dresses quickly in jeans and a t-shirt and eats breakfast of thick hot chocolate and churros, which are twisted loops of fried dough. He wants to go out and play soccer with his friends on this sunny Saturday morning. Up top, there you got Pablo. At the very same moment, it is late afternoon in Irkutsk, a city in southern Siberia. Anya returns home from a day of cross-country skiing. She takes off her fur hat, gloves, boots, ski pants, and coat. The day has been sunny but cold, with an average temperature of 15 degrees below Fahrenheit. Now Anya warms up with a dinner of pelmeni, chicken broth with meat-filled dumplings. So as you can see, very different climates, very different, vegetation too, very different cultures. So this section is about a wide range of climates. And we can look at this map here of 2 cities and 2 different climates, Barcelona, Spain, and Irkutsk, Russia. Looking at the precipitation in Russia, January, February, March, April, June, July, August has high precipitation, where in Barcelona, it's pretty steady, these green throughout the year, except then in September and October it gets much higher. Looking at the temperatures, you can see Barcelona stays pretty steady between 70s and 80s, whereas Irkutsk is at 0 a lot of times. We'll get up to the 60s, not quite the 70s, and then back down to the 0s. Most of you would rather live in Barcelona, I'm sure. I would. We'll read about the major climate regions, the natural vegetation regions. Okay, and that'll be our section. So, 3 main sections, starting with a wide range of climates. Barcelona, where Pablo lives, lies on the Mediterranean Sea. There the summers are hot and dry and the winters are mild. In Irkutsk, Anya's home, summers are short and the winters are long and very cold. Temperatures in winter can drop to negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Snow covers the ground for about 6 months of the year. How oceans affect climate. The 2 cities' distances from an ocean or a sea help explain their climate. Areas that are near an ocean or a sea have milder weather year-round than areas at the same latitude that are far from an ocean or sea. Look at the map below and find the Gulf Stream. Notice that it becomes the North Atlantic Current as it crosses the Atlantic Ocean. This powerful ocean current carries warm water from the tropical waters of the Gulf of Mexico to northwestern Europe. It also warms winds blowing from the west across the Atlantic Ocean. The warm waters and winds bring milder weather to much of northwestern Europe. Okay, so let's look at this Gulf Stream. Starts down here, starts really warm, and you can see it cools down a little bit, the Gulf Stream, into the North Atlantic Current. But as it does, it really provides for some warm air, even in colder areas. It does extend down here to coastal areas as well. London, England is far farther north than any city in the continental U.S., yet it has milder weather. How is this possible? Well, it's because the North Atlantic Current is the reason. But the most dramatic effect of the North Atlantic Current can be seen in northern Norway. Snow and ice cover most of this area in the winter, yet Norway's western coast is free of ice and snow all year. Snow melts almost as soon as it falls. Norway's ice-free ports have helped make its fishing industry one of the largest in Europe. You can see that over here along the North Atlantic Current. The ocean affects climates in other ways too. Winds blowing across the ocean pick up a great deal of moisture. When those winds blow over land, they drop the moisture in the form of rain. Winds blowing from the west across the Atlantic bring a fairly wet climate to much of Western Europe. If you know anything about the UK and Ireland, they talk a lot about how much it rains there. How mountains affect rainfall. Mountains also affect the amount of rainfall in an area. In Europe, areas west of mountains receive heavy rainfall. These areas include parts of the UK, France, Germany, and Norway. Areas east of the mountains have much lighter rainfall. Why is this so? As winds rise up a mountain, they cool and drop their moisture. The air is dry by the time it reaches the other side of the mountain. Areas on the leeward side of the mountain, or the side away from the wind, are in a rain shadow. A rain shadow is an area on the dry, sheltered side of a mountain which receives little rainfall. And I expect in your key term slideshow that you have a really good picture of this, of what a rain shadow and the leeward side. I wish the book had a picture here. It does elsewhere, but we're not going to go there right now. Okay, next, major climate regions. Considering the size of Europe and Russia, it's no surprise that this region contains many different climate regions. Climate regions of Europe and Russia. Look at the climate regions map on page 147. Notice that 4 climate regions are common to Europe and Russia. Find the humid continental climate region. This climate is characterized by long, cold winters and hot summers. Okay, I'm going there fast. Here we are, 147. 4 major climate regions. Okay. The humid continental. Humid continental climate, we just said. Long cold winters, hot summers. Now find Irkutsk, Russia on the map. It is located in a huge subarctic climate region. There, summers are short and winters are long and cold. You can see how cold it is all year by looking at the temperature graph from Irkutsk on page 157. Notice that this climate also stretches across northern Europe. Okay, so you can see, not on that map, on this map here on 157. Well, you can see the chart on 157. The temperature graph there. Europe and Russia share 2 other climate regions. The northernmost area of Europe and Russia have an Arctic climate. It is very cold in these areas. On the warmest days of the summer, temperatures barely reach 60 degrees Fahrenheit. In contrast, southeastern Europe and southwestern Russia have a semi-arid climate region with hot temperatures and little rainfall. Then we have moderate, kind of in the middle, moderate climate regions of Europe. As you can see on the climate regions map, Europe has moderate climate regions that Russia does not have. For example, the marine west coast climate affects much of northwestern Europe, stretching from northern Spain here to northern Norway here. As you have red winds and currents from the Atlantic Ocean, keep this climate mild and rainy all year. Another climate region surrounds the Mediterranean Sea, down south on the map. It is easy to remember the names of this type of climate, Mediterranean, just like the sea. Remember that Barcelona, Spain is on the Mediterranean Sea. Barcelona's right here on my mouse. Winters are mild and rainy there. I skipped a sentence. In the Mediterranean climate, summers are hot and dry, winters are mild and rainy. Finally, a band of humid subtropical climate is located in southern Europe. Warm temperatures and year round rainfall characterize this climate. So there's not much that is subtropical, sub the tropic here, but there is some. Natural vegetation regions. The natural vegetation or plant life of Europe and Russia is as varied as the climate. Vegetation regions are related to climate regions. Vegetation in Europe and Russia varies from ice cap to desert. However, the main vegetation regions are forests, grassland, tundra, and Mediterranean. Compare the climate map on 147 with the natural vegetation map below to see how climates and vegetation regions overlap. Okay, so real quick, put this picture in your head and real quick to 147. Very similar. And I know we're just looking at Europe here because Russia isn't as varied. Even though it's much bigger, when you get north, it's not as varied. Forests of Europe and Russia. The natural vegetation of much of Europe is forest. However, most of these forests have been cleared to make way for farms, factories, and cities. In northern Europe, you can still find large coniferous forests, which have evergreen trees with cones that carry and protect the seeds. Deciduous forests, which contain trees that lose their leaves in fall, cover most of western and central Europe. Russia is also heavily forested. One forest is called the taiga. It covers more than 4 million square miles. It's huge. Located in Siberia, it is the largest forest in the world. Here you can see Russia's natural vegetation. Mainly coniferous forest, some mixed, deciduous down south, kind of like the US and Canada. US is more deciduous, Canada is more coniferous with some mixed in between. Then up north of that you have tundra, where you can't even grow that. Grassland of Europe and Russia. Grasslands, also called prairies, are a major vegetation region in Europe and Russia. In Europe, grasslands once covered the central and southern parts of the North European plain. Like the forests, most of the prairies have also disappeared. Today, the land is used for farming. In Russia, the grasslands are called steppes. Steppes are located mainly in the southwestern parts of the country. They contain a mix of grasses and low-growing vegetation, such as mosses. Below that vegetation, the soil of the steppes is fertile and black and gold for farming. The steppes are similar to the Great Plains of the U.S. Mediterranean regions of Europe. Just as the area of southern Europe near the Mediterranean Sea has its own climate, it also has its own vegetation region. Mediterranean vegetation is a mix of trees, scrub, and smaller plants, usually less than 8 feet tall. The tundra of Europe and Russia. Northern parts of Europe, including northern Scandinavia, by Scandinavia we mean Finland, Norway, Sweden, up here on my mouse, and Iceland, as well as northern Russia, have a tundra vegetation region. It's this purplish color. Tundra is cold, dry, and treeless region that is covered with snow for most of the year. Their winters last as long as 9 months, and the ground contains permafrost, which is a layer of permanently frozen ground below the top layer of soil. During the brief season when the top surface of the permafrost thaws, grasses, mosses, and other plant life grow quickly. Few people live in the tundra region. Why do you think few people live there? Yeah, not many plants, not much wildlife for most of the year, hard transportation, all those reasons. All right, good work.